What's going on, everybody? This Afro Think Tank. Let me address something to some of you guys who watch me, who have a problem with me giving any sort of compliment or any sort of grace to Europeans, right? Because I know a lot of you are in your feelings, very emotional about what's going on in the world, and you see every single individual white person as your mortal enemy, and you don't want to have anything to do with them at all, right? And I completely and totally understand that, right? As y'all see, I articulate myself very well with a lot of detail. But you must be realistic, okay? The system itself is the enemy. The structure itself is the enemy. Because the structure in the system is what teaches Europeans to be the savage demon barbarians that they are. It's a system created by the oligarchs, okay? The people in charge. If you have any humanity in you, which if you are African, you do, and you have any level of intelligence outside of your emotional responses based off the systematic disenfranchisement of Africans, you would know that there are, in fact, Europeans, right, that are good people, okay? And in the real world, okay, because that's the one I live in, not the one y'all live in, not all of it, I'm not trying to like go at y'all, but some people live in a world where they're at home on the internet and they're wishing that all of these people would just be deleted, sent upstairs, right? I can understand the sentiment, right? You guys don't want Europeans to be involved in anything that got to do with African people because when they did before, you know, obviously what they did, right? Which, like I said, I can understand that. But this is the real world, all right? Not your fantasy that you got in your head that you think the future gonna look like, all right? Now, Europeans got their own goddamn set of problems, all right? And that is they have an existential crisis in their population. At some point, Europeans are gonna disappear. They are not a threat when it comes to population. No matter where they go in the world, from this point on, they cannot establish themselves in any meaningful way at all. Now, while they are still here, and when I say white, because what's going to happen is they're going to breed themselves into blackness. They're going to breed themselves into Asianness, into Arab, into all that. Because remember, Europeans they're the last created humans, right? Like that white skin is not natural. Clearly, right? They can't even go outside, right? But they will be reabsorbed because, like it or not, right? They belong to us. All, good, bad, and ugly. They come from us, right? And so what that means is there are going to be white people that come to Africa with the proper intentions. We just got to be smart enough to distinguish between the two, because you should give yourself as a black person credit that you have the ability to do that. You see, a lot of you guys, your thinking comes from a victim mentality where any white person is obviously have bad intentions and ill will, you know, because of the collective data that we have from the past, right? But if you knew anything about history, there have been white people that has literally was riding and dying with black folk. And that's the truth. There are white people that will die, give up their lives for black people, and have done so in the past, more than some black people who will never even get a splinter for black people. You see, we must concentrate on the enemy. The enemy are the rich people who created racism, because racism is a construct that did not exist, all right? Did not exist 1,000 years ago. Racism is new. It's a tool, it's a psychological tool, right? Meant to pit one group versus the other. The only difference between racism and xenophobia is we usually use xenophobia between, like, if a black person is hating on another black person because of their ethnicity or something like that, right? But because they're both black, we say the word xenophobia, right? Racism, right? Or prejudice. No, actually, prejudice is when you hate somebody, you know, for a difference. Racism is when you have the power to manipulate people or to affect their lives based off your prejudice, okay? White people are getting to the point where they're no longer going to have the power to be racist, even though they have the ability to be prejudiced, just like a lot of people have the ability to be prejudiced. And prejudice is a form of tribalism, something every human being practices. If you are from Nigeria and you got a problem with people from Ghana, you are being prejudiced. You are being tribalistic. right? If you are from France and you hate English people, you are being tribalistic. You are being prejudiced, all right? If you are from California, right, and you hate people from Chicago, you are being prejudiced. You are being tribalistic. If you are blood and you hate the Crips, you are being tribalist. You are being prejudiced. You understand? So before we start to plaster, now I keep it real. Now I just say it how it is because it's easier for people to process the information when somebody's not beating around the bush while talking. Even though a lot of people are not used to it because society has made it so people can't even say anything without everybody being offended and then blowing a gasket because they can't take a truth because they're not used to taking the truth because they're used to being pandered to because somebody wants to protect themselves from the consequences of what it is that they got to say. No, I like to keep it 100. And I think white people appreciate that because they always talking about freedom of speech. Listen, well, let me freedom of speech to tell you that you motherfuckers are fucking up and y'all about to find out. Right? Y'all know I keep the same energy. So if there is a bunch of Europeans who can get on a plane and go to Africa and not do poverty porn, but enjoy and highlight all the great things Africa has to offer, then that shouldn't be a problem to any of you African people globally who won't get on a plane and go to Africa and highlight all the wonderful things Africa has to offer. If you don't get on a plane and spend your dollars in Africa, I don't want to hear you talk about white people going to Africa and spending their dollars. All right? And last time I checked, the world is getting smaller and smaller. And African countries have the right to receive dollars and money and financial benefit from the rest of the world that now view Africa as a viable place for vacationing, spending time, and living. Africa is massive. Okay? African people are the most welcoming people, no matter where they are. So let's not pretend like we don't invite people who have good hearts, good spirits, and good intentions into our fold. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. And you need to be intellectually and emotionally mature enough to be able to distinguish between those bad pieces of shits, all right, and the good ones. You have to. Now, you also have to be very mindful and keep certain groups of people at a distance until they prove themselves. Obviously, right? That requires critical thinking. And a lot of us are not critically thinking. You guys are emotionally reacting to the environment that we find ourselves in because the people that are in charge, which are the oligarchs, right, that a lot of, peasants was fooled into voting because their educational system and the people in charge taught them to hate other people, right, taught them to disenfranchise themselves by hating other people, which is the oldest trick in the book, divide and conquer. You guys need to take the word divide and conquer, and you need to do y'all need to do a PhD level breakdown of what that means. It's not just simple terms that you throw out. There's a whole goddamn scholastic freaking mountain behind that. There's think tanks. There's billions of dollars behind the divide and conquer tactic, and it's not just used for black people to divide and disunify each other. It's used everywhere. There are Asian people who suffer from divide and conquer tactics of the European oligarchs, all right? And then if you think divide and conquer is not being used in Europe, you got another thing coming. Divide and conquer have been used to disenfranchise Europeans because the oligarchs don't care about their own people either. These oligarchs don't care about humanity at all. They only care about their own pockets. They only care about the very few individuals that were lucky enough to be children of the barbaric savages who had the leverage to disenfranchise the world. And usually that came off the royal crown. You want to look at a criminal? Look at the British royal crown. Look at all the royalty in Europe. Those are your enemies. Those are your enemies. Their cousins, their sisters, their brothers, their children, their grandparents. Those are the ones, those inbred savage royals are the savages that destroyed single-handedly the entire world and just a roller coaster of just shit. That's them, okay? And we also must take in consideration that there are pieces of shits in Africa that have a interest in keeping the divide and conquer and keeping the interest of those European inbred barbaric savage criminals with crowns that were forged from the fucking blood of our ancestors to keep their shit going because they benefit from it. What we black people need to do is clean our house and worry about all the coons in our community that benefit off the white man's racist system that they created. We need to destroy whiteness altogether because there was no such thing as whiteness. You see, back in the day in the Bacon Rebellion, when white people were brought over, poor white people who were brought over here from Europe, right? See, when that happened, black and white people were on the same side. We were literally on the same side. There was no racism. You had the African indentured servant that was at the very beginning tricked into coming to America thinking they were getting a job, but then they came over and found out they were slaves, right? Then you had the European poor-ass indentured serf, who was already a slave in Europe, but they called them serfs. Y'all guys need to understand history, because if you understand history, you realize the white man has been the white peasant has been a slave the entire time. Though I think honestly, to be white, like anytime before the 1500s, anytime before the damn 20th century has been a horrible ordeal either way. All right, like seriously, like history is. I'm a history buff. I got a degree in history, in world history, and it's not just African history. I know about European history, and that's the last thing I would ever have wanted to be, was a white person, ever, because they just it's like if they weren't getting raped and murdered and pillaged by one king over here, they was getting raped, murdered, and pillaged by another group over here. They were such slaves they couldn't even go hunting on them. They couldn't own land. They didn't own shit. They didn't own their lives. They didn't own nothing. They worked from sun up to sundown, just like everybody. Where do you think chattel slavery came from? It was already the established system of Europe. They just fucking passed that shit on to us, and we didn't have no barbaric system like that. So, it obviously is harsh. But yes, they practiced that shit for thousands of years before it got to us. You need to understand that. So yes, this Pan-African is defending the certain Europeans who are humanists. And I'm going to do that. And I ain't got no problem defending them from some of you black guys who you're just emotionally reacting. All right? Because let me tell you something. If you really about that life, if you was standing in front of one right now with a gun, what you going to do? What do you want to do with these white people? Let's be honest. If you don't want to have nothing to do, what do you want to happen? What do you want to do to speed up and accelerate their trip upstairs? Huh? If you had a gun in your hand right now and one was in front of you, could you pull the trigger? Could you do it? You got the balls to do it while y'all typing on this internet, typing all this shit like you want something bad to happen? What would you do if you had the opportunity? Now, I know some of y'all would. I ain't gonna lie. I know some of y'all would. All right? But most of y'all won't. So if you ain't really about that life, stop talking like that. All right? Concentrate on the enemy. Because, listen, like I said, Europeans got their own problems caused by them. We got our own problems within our own house outside of racism. So stop acting like the black community globally, we're perfect angels and we ain't got fucked up people in our community doing fucked up shit. Most of the people that hurt black people are other black people. Look at these stupid ass gangs we got in America. Look at YouTube where you got people highlighting stupid ass gangs like it's something to be proud about. A bunch of female ass boys, right, that can't process their emotions. They wear colors and they fight each other over colors. They're not even out here like the 1920s and 1930s selling weight, trying to build their communities like the old gang, because they ain't even got this excuse no more. They literally just wake up and they fight over neighborhoods they don't own. They fight over colors that belong to everybody, right? And they proud of it. And if somebody step on their shoe or call them a name, they're ready to crash out. Those are the enemies that we need to deal with. Those are the people I don't want around my community. Those are the people we need to get rid of. But yet we highlight all the worst shit in our community, right? And then we allow evil-ass white people like Adam 22, right, to have his stupid-ass Jerry Springer-style minstrel strolls where all these fucking gangsters and gangsters come on and embarrass the black community globally, spreading the black exploitation. And you got all the other YouTube channels like a bunch of gossip girls talking about this shit like a bunch of females, right? And y'all ain't got no problem with that. But y'all mad about a couple white folks who will go to Africa, a country none of y'all asses are still brave enough to get up and go to, and y'all want to worry about them having a bowl of Jar of Life and Legos and having a good time. And there's a difference between those and that one white dude that goes to Africa, goes to poorest place and produce poverty porn. You need to tell the difference between the two. That's why I say you got to have some critical thinking skills. I'm a Pan-African. I'm pro-bliggity black. And I'll bust any YT in the head for my people. I always pick my people first. And I always got my eye on a swivel. And I always prioritize black over everything. But that doesn't mean all white people are the enemy. But it means whiteness is the enemy. The institution of whiteness is the enemy. The structures that whiteness built is the enemy, period. And you also need to realize it wasn't all Europeans that conducted slavery. There are many European countries that were enslaved by the same imperialistic European countries that enslaved us. There are many Europeans enjoying themselves in Africa right now, right? That have a somewhat of a kinship because they were also colonized by the very same European imperial powers. China and India were also colonized and enslaved and raped and murdered the same way Africans were. The only difference is, well, with China, no, it's really not, they didn't have transatlantic slave trade with the Chinese. But they still went over there and raped, murdered, and killed them, and then made them addicted to opium, right? Causing the Opium Wars. They killed 100 million Indians. The British murdered 100 million Indians, the ones that look like us, the black ones, the ones that built the great Indian society. And they empowered all their mulattoes, who you see now on TV, bleaching their skin even further. Y'all don't understand how complex history is, right? You see what they dropped a nuclear bomb on Japan. They dropped it twice. They doubled down on the shit. Like, come on. They literally went to Tasmania and murdered and genocided the entire population. We ain't the only ones that been through some shit. But you know what? That doesn't stop these countries from making their dough, from getting some of that money back by tourism, by allowing the ones that know have respect and understanding to come to their country and enjoy the beauty of the country in a respectful way. And Africa can do the same thing. And don't try to put Africa in the box by saying they don't have the opportunity to make money by tourism from the global world, especially when most Africans are too scared to get on the plane and go. Y'all don't know how countries make money. They have to do international business. You can't do nothing on your own, and that includes countries. And until all you African people decide to collectively stand up, take all your money that you make, that you're so proud of, and go to Africa and patronize them, don't say nothing about anybody else that goes over there and does that. Everybody wants to go to Africa now. Africa is the future. It's the future, meaning everybody knows it's the future. Everybody wants to do business in Africa. Everybody wants to move to Africa and find a better way of living. Everybody wants to do it, not just me as a Pan-African. But what I'm saying is, if you see everybody else doing it, you see the world turning towards Africa. Africa is going to be the future of global business, global financing. Africa's probably going to have one of the most robust space programs. You can't visualize it right now, but they will. It's already, the seeds have already been set. Before you know it, they're going to be African astronauts, African space stations. Like, that's coming. Even though in your mind you can't see it. All that's coming. Just like America. You can go anywhere in America and see all kinds of people. Same thing will happen in Africa. But the great thing about it is we never have to worry about our population being diluted by anybody. Never. Never. That's not going to be an issue for us, unlike the Europeans. And we see what happened, right? That's it for them, all right? But we don't have to worry about that. These are our children. And some of them decide, I'm coming all the way home. All the way home. And ain't nothing wrong with that. And as a Pan-African, I ain't got no problem with that. Just come with respect. Come honorably. And the moment you try to do some colonizing shit, you're going to have to get dealt with. Because I'm the type of dude who would actually do it. You understand? That's me. Let me tell you something. I will do it. You understand? I would do it. I've done it. I would do it. I'm about that life. I've decided that I'm living my life as a warrior, one way or another. Until I die. Until somebody decides to take me out. That's how I'm living. That's how I've chosen to live. Right? That's my resolve. But with all that, I got common sense. And I have love for humanity. I don't hate white people. I hate what they do. I hate how they think. I hate how they educated. I hate how they move. I hate the systems that their oligarchs create. I hate that. I don't hate white people. But I will put them in their place when necessary. And that's just the truth. And y'all need to understand, being pro-black doesn't mean being anti anybody else. Being pro-black means loving yourself, loving your people, valuing your people, looking at your people and seeing that they have intrinsic value and you should care about them, putting them first, placing them first, giving them the VIP pass, giving them the benefit of the doubt, using your powers of empathy for them. Because black people can give empathy to everybody else, but sometimes we have a problem giving empathy to each other. And we need to practice our empathy muscles with each other. That's pro-black. That's Pan-Africanism, right? And we need to be strong when those who mean to harm us, right, decide that they're going to make a move. We need to be smart and strategic and make sure that they can't do that. And if we got to put freaking fists to mouth, then that's what we got to do. If we got to take some steel and insert it through some flesh, that's what we got to do. And it's all in love, right? And that's what it is. So y'all need to elevate your way of thinking and stop getting yourselves all overhyped because you see some white people enjoying something that you too afraid to go enjoy yourself. Anyway, tell me what you think in the comment section. It's Afro Think Tank. Learn something, teach some. I'm out.